It was before the children of Israel had entered the land of Canaan, when the Lord spoke to Moses saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, I am the Lord your God. According to the doings of the land of Egypt where you dwelt you shall not do, and according to the doings of the land of Canaan where I am bringing you, you shall not do, nor shall you walk in their ordinances. You shall observe my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk in them. I am the Lord your God. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if a man does, he will live by them. I am the Lord." Yet Israel did not keep the Lord's statutes and judgments. They repeatedly did evil in the sight of the Lord and served the Baals and the Ashtoreths, the gods of Moab, the gods of the people of Ammon, and the gods of the Philistines, and they forsook the Lord and did not serve him. Unbelievable. I do not know about these people. They are not only worshipping the major gods of Canaan, Baal, and Ashtoreth, they have gone on to extend their worship to just about every god of the peoples of the lands left among them. The children of Israel were warned not to go after other gods, the gods of the peoples who were all around them. They were to take heed that they were not ensnared to follow them, and they were not to inquire after their gods saying, "How did these nations serve their gods? I also will do likewise." They were not to worship the Lord their God in that way, for every abomination to the Lord which he hates, they have done to their gods, for they burn even their sons and daughters in the fire to their gods. Sadly, Israel did inquire after their gods and served the nation's gods, they also did likewise. Israel forsook the Lord and served demonic gods. The gods of Egypt were a continued threat to the children of Israel even after leaving Egypt. When the Lord God gave them possession of the land of Canaan, he left nations that held on to their gods, to be a test to Israel. The nations' gods among them became temptations, and many times, they gave in to the temptations and worshipped these pagan gods. Sexual immorality played a big role in the nation's religious beliefs and practices, for their laws were against the laws of sexual morality. Israel was enticed by these practices and the temptations overtook them. They worshipped these demonic gods with sexuality, sensual pleasures, ritual prostitution, with magic and superstition, and they even burned their children as burnt offerings to these gods. Baal was considered a god of fertility and he was worshipped with much sensuality. In his temple, they kept male and female prostitutes in dedication to him. Through sexual intercourse, the people believed that they could influence Baal to give them their substance of life. Ashtoreth was a goddess of fertility, and sexuality was practiced. These beliefs and practices attracted the children of Israel. Israel was attracted to their gods because they were worshipped with sexuality and sensual pleasures. So, they did likewise, the Israelites went against the laws of morality, they committed incest, and they drew near to kin to have sexual intercourse. They committed sexual immorality, in that they practiced premarital sex, extramarital infidelity, homosexuality, and bestiality. The Lord said to Israel, "Do not defile yourselves with any of these things, for by all these, the nations are defiled which I am casting out before you. For the land is defiled, therefore I visit the punishment of its iniquity upon it, and the land vomits out its inhabitants. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and shall not commit any of these abominations. Either any of your own nation or any stranger who dwells among you, for all these abominations the men of the land have done, who were before you, and so the land is defiled, lest the land vomit you out also when you defile it, as it vomited out the nations that were before you." The children of Israel did not keep the Lord's ordinances but committed these abominable customs which were committed before them, and they defiled themselves by them, and they forsook the Lord their God. Therefore, the anger of the Lord was hot against Israel, and he sold them into the hands of the Philistines and into the hands of the people of Ammon. From that year they harassed and oppressed the children of Israel for 18 years, all the children of Israel who were on the other side of the Jordan in the land of the Amorites, in Gilead. Also, the people of Ammon crossed over the Jordan to fight against Judah, against Benjamin, and against the house of Ephraim, so that Israel was severely distressed. Then the children of Israel cried out to the Lord saying, "We have sinned against you, because we have both forsaken our God and served the Baals." Then the Lord said to the children of Israel, "Did I not deliver you from the Egyptians and from the Amorites and from the people of Ammon and from the Philistines? Also, the Sidonians, Amalekites, and Ammonites oppressed you, and you cried out to me, and I delivered you from their hand. Yet you have forsaken me and served other gods. Therefore, I will deliver you no more. Go and cry out to the gods which you have chosen, let them deliver you in your time of distress." Israel knew who to call on when they were oppressed. They knew the Lord their God was the one and only true living God who could deliver them from their oppressors. Therefore, they put away the gods of the land because they were useless idols with no power, and they knew that they were useless gods. Though one cries out to them, yet they cannot answer nor save him out of his trouble. Then the people of Ammon gathered and encamped in Gilead, and the children of Israel assembled and encamped in Mizpah. Then the people, the leaders of Gilead, said to one another, "Who is the man who will begin the fight against the people of Ammon? He will be head or leader over all the inhabitants of Gilead." Jephthah was a Gileadite, a descendant of Gilead. He was also a mighty man of valor, who was born to a harlot, his father's concubine. Gilead, his father, had a wife who also bore sons to him. Gilead's sons grew up, and they drove Jephthah out of their father's house to prevent him from sharing in their inheritance, for they said to him that he had no inheritance in their father's house, for he was the son of another woman. It was then that Jephthah fled from his half-brothers and dwelt in the land of Tob. He became involved with worthless men, and they banded together to engage in raids throughout the surrounding countryside. The people of Ammon made war against Israel, and the elders of Gilead went to get Jephthah from Tob. They wanted him to be their commander that they may fight against the people of Ammon. Jephthah reminded them of how they hated him, and expelled him from his father's house, and have now come to him when they are in distress. Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, "If you take me back home to fight against the people of Ammon, and the Lord delivers them to me, will I be your head?" The elders said to him, "The Lord will be a witness between us, if we do not do according to your words." Then Jephthah went with them, and they made him head and commander over them, and Jephthah spoke all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. Although Jephthah attracted worthless men and went out on raids throughout the countryside, when he was asked to fight the Amorites for Israel, he depended upon the Lord. He is mentioned with Gideon, Barak, Samson, David, Samuel, and the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms. Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the people of Ammon asking what he had against him and why had he come to fight against him in his land. The king sent the messengers back to him with the word that Israel took away his land when they came up out of Egypt from the Arnon as far as the Jabbok, and to the Jordan. So he wanted those lands restored to him peaceably. Jephthah sends messengers to the king of the people of Ammon and tells him that Israel did not take away the land of Moab, or the land of the people of Ammon. He went on to explain the events that led up to how they gained possession of their land. Jephthah mentioned that it was Sihon, the king then, who gathered all his people together against Israel. The Lord God of Israel delivered Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they defeated them. Thus, Israel gained possession of all the land of the Amorites, who inhabited that country. They took possession of all the territory of the Amorites from the Arnon to the Jabbok and from the wilderness to the Jordan. Now the Lord God of Israel has dispossessed the Amorites from before his people Israel. Should you then possess it? Jephthah went on to say to him, "Will you not possess whatever your God Chemosh gives you to possess? So whatever the Lord our God takes possession of before us, we will possess." Jephthah made a distinction between the God of Israel and the God of the Ammonites. Jephthah let the king of Ammon know that his God, the God of Israel, is the one who took the land from them. That Chemosh their God was not able to keep the Ammonites from being dispossessed from their land. In other words, it was the God of Israel against his God Chemosh. Ammon's God had no power to secure the land from being taken and no power to have their land returned to them. When Jephthah had finished explaining how they came into possession of the Amorites' land, he said, "Therefore I have not sinned against you, but you wronged me by fighting against me. May the Lord, the judge, render judgment this day between the children of Israel and the people of Ammon." Nevertheless, the king of the people of Ammon did not heed the words which Jephthah sent him. The Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah, and he crossed over Jordan to war against the people of Ammon. He made a vow to the Lord that if he would indeed deliver the people of Ammon into his hands, then it would be that whatever came out of the doors of his house to meet him when he returned, it would surely be the Lord's, and he would offer it up as a burnt offering. Jephthah fought against the people of Ammon, and the Lord delivered them into his hands. Jephthah defeated the Ammonites, and it was a very great slaughter. The people of Ammon, 20 cities were subdued before the children of Israel. When Jephthah returned to his house, there was his daughter coming out to meet him with timbrels and dancing, and she was his only child. He remembered his vow to the Lord, that whatever came out of the doors of his house to meet him when he returned from war, would surely be the Lord's, and he would offer it up as a burnt offering. At first, I did not understand why Jephthah made this vow before the Lord. He must have known that whatever came out of the doors of his house to greet him would most likely be his daughter, or wife, if he had one, for it is not mentioned that he had a wife. He must not have been thinking of any person, but maybe something like an animal, for instance, that he would offer it up as a burnt offering. He knew that the Lord is not a god among the false gods that he would accept human sacrifices to him. The Lord calls the ritual an abomination. What was Jephthah thinking? When he sees his daughter running to meet him, he tears his clothes and says, "Alas, my daughter! You have brought me very low. You are among those who trouble me. For I have given my word to the Lord, and I cannot go back on it." His daughter's reply to him was that he had given his word to the Lord, he was to do according to what had gone out of his mouth, because the Lord had avenged him of his enemies, the people of Ammon. She only wanted her father to let her go and wander on the mountains for 2 months with her friends that she may bewail her virginity. He allowed her to go, and sent her away for 2 months. It was at the end of 2 months, she returned to her father, and he carried out his vow with her, which he had vowed. No. Jephthah did not sacrifice his daughter to God as a burnt offering. She was given to the Lord for service, just as Samuel was given to the Lord. Before Samuel was born, Hannah, who earlier made a vow to the Lord in the same manner as Jephthah prayed, that if the Lord would indeed look on her affliction and remember her, and give her a son, then she would give him back to the Lord all the days of his life. The Lord gave her a son, Samuel, and after he was weaned, she took the child to Eli, the priest. She lent Samuel to the Lord. As long as he lived, he was lent to the Lord. This meant that Jephthah's daughter would stay a virgin for the service of the Lord. The scriptures say, "She knew no man." If an animal had come out of the house instead of her, Jephthah would have offered it up as a burnt offering, seeing that he used the word, "Whatever comes out of the doors to my house to meet me, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering." This may be one reason that we are to be careful in making vows to the Lord. Ecclesiastes 5 verse 4 and 5. When you make a vow to God, do not delay paying it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you have vowed, better not to vow than to vow and not pay. Jephthah was from the tribe of the Gileadites, who were located just above the tribe of Gad. The men of Ephraim gathered and crossed over the Jordan to Jephthah, wanting to know why he crossed over to fight against the people of Ammon and did not call them. Jephthah had left the tribe of Ephraim completely out of the battle, and the Ephraimites were so angry that they were ready to burn his house down on him with fire, even before he could answer them. Jephthah responded by saying that his people and he were in a great struggle with the people of Ammon, and when he called them, they did not deliver him out of the Ammonites' hands. So when he saw that they would not deliver him, he took his life in his hands and crossed over against the people of Ammon, and it was the Lord who delivered them into his hands. He asked them why they have come up to fight against him. The Ephraimites did not like Jephthah's answer. They were expecting a comparison between them and him, as they had from Gideon. However, Jephthah did not give in to the Ephraimites. Gideon, of the tribe of the Abiezrites, who were descendants of Joseph through his son Manasseh, was part of the tribe of Manasseh that settled west of the Jordan River. Gideon was once reprimanded sharply by the Ephraimites because he did not call them when he went out to battle with the Midianites. They were only asked to seize the watering places. However, they also captured the two princes of the Midianites, took off their heads, and brought them to Gideon on the other side of the Jordan. And because Gideon did not ask the Ephraimites to help them in the battle, and he subdued the Midianites without their help, they were angry with him and reprimanded him for not doing so. Gideon responded to Ephraim in a way that could appease their anger toward him, and their anger toward him subsided. Gideon said to them, "What have I done now in comparison with you? Are not the gleaning grapes of Ephraim better than the vintage of Abiezer? God has delivered into your hands the princes of Midian, and what was I able to do in comparison to you?" Gideon uplifted the Ephraimites when Jephthah did not. When the Ephraimites said to Jephthah that they were Gileadites and fugitives among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites, Jephthah went to war with them. Jephthah gathered all the men of Gilead and fought against Ephraim, and the men of Gilead defeated Ephraim. There fell at that time 42,000 Ephraimites. Jephthah showed the Ephraimites that even though they were an influential force in Israel and characterized as the most numerous warlike people of the tribes of Israel, he was not going to be compared to them and under their control. Jephthah was going to depend on the Lord and not the Ephraimites. They had a chance to rid the Ammonites when Jephthah called upon them, and they did nothing. Therefore, the Lord through Jephthah and 300 men crossed over the other side and defeated the Ammonites where the Ephraimites dwelt. This became a civil war between the Gileadites and the Ephraimites. Jephthah, the Gileadite, judged Israel 6 years. Then he died, and he was buried among the cities of Gilead. After the death of Jephthah, the Lord brought up Ibzan of Bethlehem, who judged 7 years. Then he died and he was buried at Bethlehem. After the death of Ibzan, Elon the Zebulunite judged Israel 10 years. Then he died and he was buried at Aijalon in the country of Zebulun. After Elon, Abdon the son of Hillel the Pirathonite judged Israel 8 years. Then he died and he was buried in Pirathon in the land of Ephraim, in the mountains of the Amalekites. Then after the death of Abdon, Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines for 40 years. Thanks for listening. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks.